All right, welcome back, everybody. And today we have Mr. Todd Millar. How are you doing, Mr.
Hey, I'm
Todd?
great. How are you guys doing?
We are good, audience and all. Um, Today we're going to talk with Todd, and he can walk us through some of his motorcycling history and whatnot. And the first question I always ask everybody is, how did you get into motorcycling, sir?
I started riding motorcycles when I was a small kid. I think my dad brought me. I had ridden mini bikes and things, but I got my first real dirt bike when I was 10 years old. Started riding on the street as a 16, 17-year old. Um, Realized that I like the track a lot better. The track is fun. There's a safety factor there. You don't have the cars, you don't have the traffic, controlled environment. Just had more fun there. And rode around, tried to see how fast I could get at doing it, and then kind of moved into coaching somewhere around 2018 or so with another organization, been with Fasttrax since I think it was late 19. I caught a few days at the end of the year, and then I've been there ever since. Full season for 20 was my first full year there.
Okay, well, let's back up just a smidge. And so, how long did you ride street for before you got into track days?
I was actually on the street for a long time. I probably did, oh my gosh, um, a lot of years on the street. I didn't really get heavy into the track until the early 2000s. That's when I really started getting into, riding around racetracks, just started doing track days and fell in love with it after the very first day. Uh, I
How so?
think
What
those who haven't been on the track don't realize just how much fun it can be.
so what actually got you into riding track? Was it somebody you knew, or like how did that all
Yeah,
spawn?
it was just a guy that I used to ride on the street with goes, "Hey, why don't we see what these are like on a racetrack?" And we got into a track day and hooked immediately. It was something I had always really enjoyed as soon as I got there.
So what was your expectations going into versus like reality of what you actually experienced on that first track day?
Um, I was a very experienced rider before I ever got on the track, and I actually wondered if I was going to be held back, or was I going to be a pro racer my first day? And it doesn't take very long to realize that it is a learned skill. You could be a very successful street rider, and you're not really going to be all that on the track just yet. You're going to have to get into a real race mentality and use the repetition of the racetrack to hone your skills to a level that a street rider I don't think ever will.
So what were some particular things like that you when you got riding on track that you said, "Oh, this is a noticeable difference," and some, what skill sets were you learning that you were like, "Okay, this is not something that I had experience with or learned on the street or things like that."
So some of my street riding was really aggressive for being on the street, which you young people sometimes push things too far. Um, I then realized that I was not even going fast on the street compared to the speed you could get on a racetrack. Using the repetition, you learn the limits of your motorcycle, which on a street, you're just, that's not a reasonable expectation. To really hone your skills and define the real limits of traction, acceleration, braking of your motorcycle. It takes a racetrack to really explore those limits.
So and with your experience on track, how long did it take you to kind of, for one, like get out of novice and get that experience and um, to reach that next level intermediate? I mean, what was did you learn slowly, or were you more of a quick learner in that stuff? And who did you actually
Um,
do your first track weekend with?
I was with Mid Ohio for my first track weekend ever. When they first started having the program up there, I started going up to Mid Ohio. Um, I learned very rapidly. The thing is, everybody does need to learn, and everybody has a process they have to go to. If you're dedicated to that process, you're going to come up through it much faster. If you're doing exactly the right race things, you're using the repetition, you're setting marks, you're hitting those marks, you can move up much quicker. But that being said, I got through it pretty quickly. You don't need that much dedication. All you need is a little bit of coaching. I think Fasttrax helps our people from, our first customers all the way up to, our racers. We work with everybody, throw a little bit extra information at them, and we work them up to everybody ends up faster than they were.
Right on. Yeah. So you've been, you were kind of saying you were coaching quite a while. So joined Fast Tracks a little later or whatever, but you've been with Mid Ohio for how long were you with Mid Ohio School?
Uh, I actually didn't. I started coaching up at Mid Ohio is maybe 2017, 2018. So it was only a few years later I made it up to Fast Tracks. Um, yeah, I had the fortunate experience to be around some really good racers, which pushed me to another level, which you know. Really brought up my skill level, and I like to try to share some of what I've learned from some pretty fast racers.
And how did you get into coaching in general? Like, who kind of extended their hand to it, or did you, seek out to start coaching? And what was your kind of motivation to start coaching?
I was just asked to coach. I had worked on my speed. They knew me at some of the tracks, and they just asked if I would start coaching. And the coaching move was fantastic for me. To be able to hit a track, work on some of my own skills, and then the joy of teaching this sport, trying to spread our sport. It was more than I thought it was going to be. It's a really good time for the coaches to work with students, watch their development. We make everybody faster, and we're all happy with that. The customers are happy, but we're also happy with that too. Seeing our work, on the track. I run with lap timers. I see our customers. I see every session they go faster and faster, and I work with making sure they're clean, making sure they're safe. And the coaching thing has been a wonderful thing for me.
Fantastic. Before I start asking you some more questions along the coaching stuff, I know that you've helped with different area aspects of like some racers and stuff and MotoAmerica stuff. Have you helped in the paddock and stuff? I know you've helped out a little bit with like Mark Young and stuff. Kind of worked with him a little bit on with the team that he runs and stuff. Where are you kind of, or am I wrong on that? As far as, are you helping out at MotoAmerica a little bit with them
Um,
when they need it, or?
I have had my hands in that a little bit. We'll see how much more I do this year with them. I've always been, helping out, you know, uh, the team so far. It looks like we're back at Daytona again this year. We're returning back there. I'll probably make the trip. I will probably have a little hand in there, trying to make sure HRC, whatever I can do to help those guys out, from anything to, getting their tires to the trip down there, all of our logistics. There's so much behind racing. It's surprising how it brings a full day for, a rider to, it takes a big staff to get that rider around the track. So,
Yeah, you want to go into
um,
that a little bit more? Like, what are some of your experiences, and what did you enjoy about that? Like, those experiences you've had helping out with stuff like that. I mean, that obviously, seeing it at that level has to bring some, not just as the helping aspect, but just seeing the higher level riders and working around them and stuff. You got to pick up some pretty interesting knowledge, or just tidbits, just some things that normal people don't really get the advantage of hearing or seeing.
yeah, well, it did surprise me in at the top level how important data is for what they're doing. So besides all the just the logistics of getting the equipment together, getting the bike together, and getting there, to truly watch what the riders are doing, to record their data, to see exactly where they're on the throttle, exactly where they're on the gas, and make sure they hit that consistently. It's at a level that's more than I thought. Um, During a race, a racer can occasionally talk about what they're doing, and the computer will always make sure if they are or are not. Um, and that dedication, you can actually see some of that happen. And then you can put that in your own mind, even if you're not being watched by a computer. You can remember, or I personally remember things I've seen where we've had riders say, "Oh, you just can't make full throttle there." And we're like, "Well, the other guy on the team is, so you can too." And there's times that people at a lower level of racing have said that, I'm on the gas all the way, and you can show them the data and go, "Oh, you were off the gas way before you got to that turn." So that was a big thing in racing that surprised me, how true data driven a lot of it is, and how much that data is really useful if it's recorded and it's even put back into your mind that I always have to be on this gas, I have to hit the brake here, and how there's no driving into a corner and hoping you're going to make it. You're going to make it. You know where to hit your brakes. You know where to get on the gas. And that's really the difference of the next level. It's not guessing, it's knowing.
Is there anything that you might have learned or picked up from some of these pro guys that they've said that you've applied, that not data wise, but just like they said, oh, just whatever it may be. It could be just a typical phrase. I know Marty said something he picked up from, I think it was like Josh Heron said in passing and talking to him about, how when he started playing golf that Heron said, yeah, when I started playing golf, I started to know that, like, it's me against the course. And I started to think more that way when I'm on track. It's not me against an opponent. It's me against the road course and working on things, one step at a time or whatever. Is there anything that anybody said to you that's kind of made an impact in like your riding?
The only thing I've really caught is I've heard riders talk about different courses that they like and they dislike, and I've heard one in particular talk about that he would prefer the track to not be in good shape. He wants things a little sketchy, and I understand that playing to the best suit that you have is going to be the answer. Whatever your strength is, whatever you do, that's going to be what would carry you to the next level.
Gotcha. What about as far as bike prep or anything like that? Is there anything you've kind of picked up from your experience with that you apply to your own bike and your own whenever you do track days? Maybe it be making sure double checking things or whatever it may be, like a certain systematic thing that you do to get ready.
Um, that sort of goes a little different way from what I do. I mean, I just check my bike pretty much the way I would tech every single bike that we do. I start in one place, I work my way around it, and then I finish. I have my process that I go exactly here, exactly here, exactly here. So, nothing is missed. Yeah, the pro world is surprising the way those bikes are just torn apart, put back together, and it is perfect every time. The Their error is not our error, or their level of no forgiveness for an error is so much greater than ours. The slightest thing goes wrong, and it's not going to be a good day for them. So yeah, I like the process of being very consistent and having an exact way you do things makes a big difference.
Gotcha. Well, we can get back to kind of a questions regarding your coaching experience and stuff. So we'll stick, specifically, I guess, with Fasttrax, and kind of go from, let's say, first, let's cover what do you think is like the most important thing for a novice rider coming in first time to Fasttrax? What do you think is like one of the most important things for them to be, aware of, or be on top of when they're doing their first track day?
Yeah. So just before you show up, make sure your bike is in great condition. Go over it, make sure every bolt's tight. Very simple. Just pick clockwise, counterclockwise, go around it, make sure everything's tight, inspect your tires, make sure your brake pads are good. So when you get there, your bike is ready. Second of all, relax. This is a fun thing. We have people so wound up, they're so nervous, they don't know what to expect. And the thing is, they need to keep in their mind that the coaches are there for them and we're going to work with them. And if we see you making a safety issue, we're going to try to keep you from making that mistake. And then we're going to give you some laps around the track at a pace that you can make some mistakes and nothing's going to happen because we have a safety factor. You can go faster and make the turn just fine, but we're going to get you making the turn exactly where you're supposed to turn in, where your apex is, and where your exit is. And then we can start adding speed later once you're smooth. It's not our first day, even though it is the customer's first day. And we will get you through and we will make it a great day for you.
All right, all right.
Yes. Yeah. So just the prep and then don't let your emotions get you. So everybody's friendly and everybody's going to take care of you.
Gotcha. Um, so from all the times that I mean, it could be from, um, Mid Ohio, it could be from Fasttrax, whatever you way you want to, whatever one you want. But has there been any? I'm sure there has, and probably quite a bit. Particular instance of, um, something that really stuck out in your head is, like you'll never forget, like one of those coaching instances that just, really sticks out, that will always stick with you, no matter what. That's just a positive thing where you're like, man, that was just, I'll never forget that thing.
I can't go that way. I would switch it to a different way that I have noticed through oh my gosh, the thousands of people that have been behind me on motorcycles on racetracks. Um, as people, we're all different. As a coach, it's up to me to figure out exactly which English. I could say something and you could say something to somebody, and it can be so different. And occasionally we have to repeat ourselves and try to use different words to get our exact point across to a student to make sure they do the correct thing that we need. You know, in the world that I've been in with different organizations, there were different philosophies and different people at the top of the organizations have had different ideas. And it's been interesting for me to watch the differences in that. It all gets down to um, the two organizations I'm with now are both extremely safe compared to others. Um, and I don't have like one tip for any one student except for listen to your coach. They've been there before and they're going to help you out. Because each problem will be different, and occasionally we have people think in different ways. A body position is one that I think about a lot. We tell people about getting off the bike, and they can't one way, and then we'll give physical actions to one person and they'll get it immediately and someone else won't, and then we have to twist that a completely different direction. And I mean, I've had it work for some people that telling them to pivot their ankle, stick their knee out, and reach their elbow to that knee is the answer. And other people, you just say, scoot your butt off the seat, and they're good. It's figuring out exactly what each individual needs to get them to the same point.
Gotcha. What would you say? Is there anything that you think that, or what would you say is the one thing that stands out about Fasttrax organization? And I'm not asking you to like the other organization that you work with, putting them down or anything like that. But what do you think that there's a positive that Fasttrax kind of stands out a little bit more than some other organizations?
Yeah, people obviously think that I'm there, I'm going to boost them up and say they're better, but Fast Tracks is amazing, especially for a very inexperienced or first time rider. Oh my gosh, what a great place to go. In your meetings you're going to get so much information, then you're going out with a coach, and then so your classroom could be by one person, and then your coach that you're riding with is probably there for most of your classroom, and they can work with your individual skills. Fast Tracks is such a great place that we show you around the track. We give you so much information, probably more than most people can even take in. And then before the day is over, you're set completely free, along with coaches watching you, to just run around the track. It's it's a pretty great first track day for anybody to try Fast Tracks. Just from the amount of information that's in our curriculum, to following your coaches, to being let free all on your very first track day. It's pretty great at Fast Tracks.
All right. Yeah, and you run the novice group quite a bit, and you do a pretty fantastic job at it. You're very good, loud communicator with people, and the way you describe things. And I mean, we go by a syllabus, but you kind of put your own little spin on things as well. And it's worked out great. I commend you for the way you lead novice. It's fantastic. What do you think or what would you tell people? Go back, rephrase this. What is the biggest hurdle for novice riders, in your opinion, from to get from that novice to intermediate area?
Once you do that, there's a dedication to where you are on the track and getting your repetition down. That's what it is. We need you to hit the brakes at the same place while you're in the same gear every time around the track. You're tipping in at the same place. You're hitting your apex at the same place. You're on the throttle and hitting your exit every time. It's a consistency, and it's cleaning up the race things that you start in novice with a little taste of some of these. And we tell you about it, we ask you to work on it, and through repetition people get better at it. To move up to the next level, to get to that intermediate level, we need you to pretty much consistently do that. We need you to have the abilities to repeat what you do every lap, is where we're trying to get to. Then from intermediate to advanced, it's just the next level of the same thing. It is, we want you perfectly on line. We want you going fast as you fly into your corner, on your brakes, exactly the same place, running fast lap times and being consistent and being in control. Because some people, if they haven't been to a racetrack yet, they don't realize that when you really start pushing yourself, if you push yourself too far, things get a little out of control. Now, we're not saying crash, but you're not where we want you to be. You're not doing things exactly right. And to get to that top level, we need you to hit it right every time. So that's just, our steps through the 3 phases of our track days.
Gotcha. So, what do you think on our track on Nelson Ledges is the probably on average is the most difficult part of the track that people struggle with the most? And and it could be from novice up to advance. And like I've said before, we've had Moto A guys come in. I'm not saying like top tier, top 5 guys or whatever, but some Moto A guys that are, they're better than the average club racer or whatever, that, they've struggled with part of the track. What on average do you think is the part of the track that that gets them or has people struggle with the most or take the most time to learn and get down correctly?
I would say our carousel turn is a lot for some people. Um, and I mean, I know where I give them the first step of taking it the right way. New riders hit that turn, and it just seems like you turn right until you pass where you've already been. And you're like, I don't remember a spiral in this track, but that they view that turn as this endless twist that keeps going on. And when I take people faster and faster in there, we're almost to the pushing the intermediates more to advanced is where I really start telling them to stop looking at it that as a curve. We have an entrance and an exit, and stop worrying about just turning right. We're coming in fast, we're braking to a point, and then we're exiting out. And to put our bikes in exactly the right place for such a long turn that people are just laying in forever. I think that throws some of our beginner riders there. And then to do it fast, I mean, it consistently from our beginner riders, they just can't believe they're turning that far, to our intermediate riders who aren't doing it the best way, to well, our racers, I work on some of those guys getting through it even faster and passing people in that turn. That would be a big part for me. I think that's that long, long looping right that goes on forever. That's it's pretty joyous to lay your bike on the ground and just be there forever, running around that corner. It's fun, but to do it right, it takes people a while to figure out exactly where they need to be.
And so, what would you say is one of the like bigger, like biggest mistakes people make at the track? We have what with a lot of people struggle with, but what's a common mistake people make? And it doesn't have to be that same exact corner or something like that, but what do you see? Let's say, especially in novice, what's one of the biggest common mistakes that you see happen?
Well, novice is very simple. It's they're not treating the turn like they've just made it 20 times, like they have. They're going in there and they're looking at it and they're trying to figure it out while they're going in. It's like, no, it's the same way it was a minute ago when you went through it. That's what I see out of them. Um, I think that's our biggest novice problem is trying to get them to put their mind into it's, you were just here, just do the same thing you did the last time. Um, and there's an issue, you can kind of work that all the way up through pro racers. So.
Yeah, yeah. Like I always say, one of the most challenging things is like it's all mental, right? I mean, once you have your basics, the normal, whatever you want to call your normal things, getting your entry, your exit, your apex, learning those lines, the normal, just things that we the structural things we teach and body position, etc. After that, you're the biggest. Personally, what I think is the biggest hurdles are always kind of like that mental thing, because no one could be on your bike and twist your throttle for you or grab your brakes later or anything like that. Is there anything that you like? Suggestions or any tips that you give people to help with those mental blocks or those plateaus?
Um, so without just speaking to them, it's very difficult. On the track, I would just have them behind me, and when they watch what I do and try to do exactly what I do, that's where it comes in for some people. Um, at the higher levels, it's the same thing over and over with the advanced guys that are trying to be faster racers. I'm like, well, did you hear where you got on the gas? I was behind you and I got on the gas before you did. And so, um, that's the big thing with people that are more experienced. It's getting them on that gas earlier. Occasionally, you'll get somebody who breaks a little too early. Um, yeah, it's a mental thing they have to get through. That your brakes are going to stop you. They did the last time you were around the track, so they will this time too. Um, but a lot of it deals with getting them on the gas so early to get them going quicker. Um, so
Uh,
that's a more advanced than the beginner people, but. it all comes down to the same thing.
Right.
You can get those beginners to start rolling on the gas earlier than they initially want to.
A question I had the other day when I did the Q&A thing, somebody was asking about, you know, her name was Sam. She had an issue with the looking for her or picking out her references. And I see this a lot, and I'm sure you do too, where, if you're in front of somebody and you're dragging them along and you can look behind you, and when you come out of a corner, you look and you're like, oh man, they've hit their mark, right? Every time. They're where they need to be. And when they get in front of you, it's like the track is changed, right? Is there is there anything that you suggest? I had a suggestion, but I'm curious of what your answer would be on this. What do you think is a good way to get those reference points and get your eyes off of the coach, and or referencing the coach or taking the coach and making a reference point near or whatever it is? Is there any tips that you would give, or a certain thing that you've used before or seen other people use that really works out well to help with getting those references?
So every racetrack, that's important. Nelson, we don't seem to have a big battle with people not hitting those reference or using the reference points. But I have been in other tracks that there's a very unfriendly turn where Nelson is a very fast track. People don't realize how fast Nelson is. Some of these slower tracks, people really struggle through some turns and they're not picking a reference point, starting toward it, looking to their next reference point because there has to be a move from one place to the other because as racers you have to, or okay, as humans we follow our eyes. As a racer you have to know that, and know that you have to be looking so far in front of where you're going and what you want to do next. There are turns that are really sharp on other racetracks that I am looking at the exit while I am still heading into the turn. You need to teach people to get their eyes that far in front of them, pick a reference point, but then they have to let that reference point go and get their next reference point to get their bike to go around the track the way you truly want to.
So how would you suggest if someone's picking out a reference point? One of the things is like they were kind of saying is like at pace it's hard when you have a coach in front of you. They're here, they're here, they're here, and they are looking that shorter distance, right? But to pick out that reference point, what's a good way to start picking those reference points out? Like to because it's such a fast pace for especially for a novice rider to pick out that reference point to something to make it solid and something to come back to over and over again. How would you suggest they go about that?
Well, at Nelson Ledges, we have cones to help them out with that.
They move
So
though.
when you get that new rider, you want to get them heading for the tip in cone to the apex cone to the exit cone. They At that point, just running from those cones is enough to get them started. The first thing I then throw in after they're looking at those cones, I tell them to not look at those cones. I said, we're going to do that. And our whole day is just following some of those cones around. But the first reference point is an exit of the turn. So we're not driving at that exit cone. That is the first reference point that we need to put into their game. We need to get them that at the apex, they can peek at the exit cone, and then they need to peek the direction of the straightaway to not overdrive that exit cone, and we have to get them looking the right way. So that's the very first one I push on them. And then I push the process. Okay, the cones aren't there, find your reference points in case the cones aren't there the next time you're here, or if you continue and you race here, the cones aren't there when you're racing.
Right.
So um, I just push the constant search for the next reference point. Once I get that first big one on the exit of the turn, and I usually don't give the customers reference points. If I have someone who struggles a lot, I'll say, no, put your eyes here, put your eyes here. Typically, I want them to find where they're going. And I want them to find a reference point. And the first big one after the cones is that leaving the turn, don't look at your exit cone. You have to look down the straightaway. You need a reference point down there to switch your eyes to and get going that way. And it usually gets them pretty far.
Another one that I thought was a very interesting question, and curious how you would answer it, is where is the limit? Right. So I had the novice guy go, how do I know where my limit is? And I'm curious of what you say on that. Right. So like I'll tell you what my response was after you, but like they're like, okay, so how do I know where the limit is? How do you respond
Um,
to that question?
Well, that's very individualistic on what my customer is. If they seem really battened down, they're that person who's really good on a bike. I will tell them that finding that limit is very dangerous, and we have to do it 1 mile an hour at a time. And if you do it exactly 1 mile an hour at a time, you're going to get a slight slide that you're going to survive. Now, if I tell a weaker person, I will just tell them, let's keep ourselves safe. We're going to attempt to go 1 mile an hour or so faster. I will probably have them follow me, and then I will be following them. And uh, I've actually accelerated extremely into a turn to pass somebody, get in front of them, to get them to slow down, to then get them through the turn. It's a pretty big move, to, we'll go a long way to keep them from going too fast, including going way too fast to a huge trail break to get them to slow down behind us.
Yeah, my response was your limit is lower than your limit is equal to your skill, right? So your limit is way below what the bike and tires limits are. And your limit is limited to what your skill set is. So, like someone on the exact same bike and tires at a better skill set, their limit's higher. And it's all on that. It's all about getting comfortable, with that bike and what your skill set level is, essentially where that limit tends to be, right? Would you agree with that?
Yes, definitely. And another a thing I may throw at someone who is trying to push their bike a little bit, I tell them that said, when I'm really pushing for the limit, I pretend my bike is on ice. I'm like, are you that soft and that ready with your controls that you're on ice? And that's going to bring you a safety level as you're reaching for those limits.
That's a very interesting concept. That's I've never heard that before, but that's I kind of like that. I might use that. That's I mean because I mean that works, right? Or like in rain because you're going to be more soft, more smoother with the throttle in those conditions. Obviously, they're going to think about how they are with that versus being hammered on the gas or hammered on the brakes real hard or whatever it is. I really really like that. I think I'll probably use that the next time I'm with novice group. Um, Trying to think what else here. Is there any particular thing that you would it's not your normal thing that just bring your bike and your gear, etc. But is there a particular item that you think is like not many people think of that you think this is a great thing to have with you at the track? It adds value there to your day in one way or the other. Is a particular thing that you would say not many people bring this or know about this or whatever it is, but like this is definitely will aid in your day and make your day a better day?
I've been tarnished by so long at the track that I've seen everything break. I've seen everything go wrong. So it's really hard for me to pick out anything that's that way. For a new person or doing a first track day, the huge warning is if it's summer, it's hot and sunny and you need some shade. So think about how you're going to protect yourself. You keep yourself hydrated is so big. You need to bring so much water. Now, I ride a ridiculous amount of laps, but I will drink 10 bottles of water in a day.
Yep.
Just, and I may not use the restroom. Um, but that's probably quite a few more laps than most people will ever see. But
Right.
just as a how crazy it can go. We go through some things. There are hot days that I really push my nutrition on to make sure I get through the day. But but the basic taking care of yourself is something. When you're back from your ride, we want you to be relaxed and rest. A chair in the shade is so important for a newer rider. So some creature comforts. Don't only think about your bike, think about taking care of your body over a day that is probably going to wear you out. It is so normal for a student not to make their whole class day. They can't make every lap. It's more physically demanding than people think. And to take care of your body, keep yourself comfortable between your sessions will make your sessions better. So that the I think the biggest thing to throw out there is for the people who haven't been to a track to make sure they take care of themselves and they make their day comfortable because it's going to be physically demanding. And the more you can relax, the more you can keep your fluid in, have a couple of snacks to bring the calories in. Don't lose weight that day. Yeah, it's a day to get through and take care of herself.
And so, what would you say to anybody that's on the fence about doing a track day? They thought about it. We ride the street. Is there, is there any value? I'm not going to race. I always hear that all the time. I'm not going to race. So, what do I need to do a track day for? But my buddies are doing or this or that. I mean, what do you say to people that are on the fence about doing one? What would you tell them?
See, I would tell them to do it. If they're really on the fence and they really don't want to do it, show up to a track day without your bike, don't pay, and watch what's going on. I think, we would welcome another person to sit through a classroom, see what we're about, see what all the other people, when you see them grinning ear to ear, you're going to bring your bike back in a week.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
it's pretty simple. It's I've joked around before in meetings at the start of the day to our novice said, well, the worst thing about today is Disney World and Cedar Point just are not going to be very fun anymore because you just found something that's better.
Exactly.
That's the worst part of the track day is, well, yeah, Disney World and Cedar Point just aren't so great anymore.
Well,
um,
is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to speak on? I mean, I have certain question stuff I like to cover, but somebody's always got something in the back of their mind, their thought that we haven't touched on or whatever. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you'd like to speak on?
No, it's just, I guess, a lot of what I've said today about how much fun this is. I mean, we are volunteering to teach you. It's so much fun that we want to share the fun with you. That's the biggest message. Um, Everybody either really likes the track or they lose their mind and fall in love with the track. Yeah, there isn't anybody who really shows up and goes, "Oh, this wasn't very good."
The only time I actually see that, and I don't know if you've ever been in this situation. I was at my first track day. The organization wasn't very well. The coaching for novice wasn't great. And I came away from the day like, I don't even know if I want to come back. It's like I had it was overwhelming with no help and trying to figure things out myself that, I'm glad I gave it a second shot and went to, did another day with a different organization. And that was it. Right. But my first time was just not a good experience, and it almost turned me away from doing it. I feel like Fasttrax provides that really, really good experience. If I had my first track day like the way that we run Fasttrax, I would have been hooked that first day. And since I've been doing track days, and I did track days with Lean before it became Fasttrax and before I became a coach and stuff. And I always just loved the atmosphere and how approachable people were, and how much they wanted to give back. And that's kind of what really, part of the reason that sparked me for wanting to become a coach. Outside of having that first track day was impactful for me. To the point of wanting to become a coach. Like, I want people to have that great experience and want to keep coming back. I don't want their first time there to be, something where they go, I don't know if this is for me or not, But that was my first experience, was that, and I'm glad I gave it a second shot, but maybe some people won't. And, I think a lot of it is dependent upon, how your day goes and if the org can, provide a really good experience for you.
Yeah. I was at a track day that was struggling. We'll just say it was more than 500 miles away from here. Um, and someone there recognized me, and I was just there as a customer, and I was just riding and having fun. And they asked me for advice, and it was pretty much, I like, they're like, well, what can we do to fix this? I'm like, well, you have to change your whole program. Everybody needs to come out here. They need to be taught what to do, because there were a lot of people set free on the track to just go ride, and they crashed. They did. It was just, people need some experience. I can't stress it enough how, no matter how good of a rider you are, a track day is going to make you better. It's You will make every single turn on the racetrack that day faster than any turn you've ever made in your life. So, um, and you'll be doing it safe. You won't just be cut loose, and people will be looking for the limits without speaking to anybody about limits, about handling the bike, about being smooth on their bike, about what they're supposed to be looking at. And they crash. And I've seen it with multiple organizations before. So it's Ohio is a very good place to do your first track day.
Well, awesome, man. I really appreciate you taking time out to do this. So far, all the interviews have been really good, and get a little bit of information on yourself, and there's a lot of things that people don't know about you, or don't know your experience and stuff, and that's what this is all about, trying to get people more acquainted even before they come to the track. So the next time they come and you're teaching novice, whatever, it's the first time there, they have a little bit of background on you and know what you're about, and the amount of care and that we have for our customers, and they know they're in good hands. And it might even be easier for them to spark up a conversation with you seeing this. So that's the whole point behind this stuff, is just try to kind of get those things out there. And I do appreciate you taking the time out to do this, like I said. So, yeah, man, if there's nothing else that you want to touch on, man, we'll wrap right there. And, again, very, very much appreciated that you took time out to do this. I know it took a little bit to get things ironed out to get it together, but we made it happen.
Hey, thanks for having me on here. So
Oh,
that's a great job you're doing. Uh,
thank you. I'm trying. All right, sir. Well, we'll call it right there. Thanks everybody who's checking this out, and yeah, man, we'll call it a day, and then everybody will see you next year at the track, and say hello to Todd when you're there. He'll be either running the novice class or running around advance or whatever, and you need help, just go ask him. He'll be on either the green ZX10 or what else do you have?
the black and yellow
Oh,
Gixxer.
that's right. That's right. He's fast boy out there. All right, Todd. Well, thanks again, and bye, everybody.
Bye.